what does it mean that God is merciful? So if you're like me, the first thing that pops into your mind is that God forgives sins. But there's so much more to God's mercy because God's mercy is infinite. So Jesus Christ, the second person of the Trinity, became man. And whenever he became man, he assumed our human nature and took on all of our limitations, all of our frailty, all of the mess that we know to be humanity. So he was like us in all things except sin. So one of the things that he understands that we need is all these people around us to help us to grow in holiness. So he took all of the saints and he surrounds us in this great cloud of witnesses. So sometimes, though, we find that we're not too connected with this cloud of witnesses. And we might find ourselves focused on this life that we live, and like we want more money, we want more friends, we want all these things, and we find ourselves very dissatisfied, and we just see our life as a mess, and we don't know how to get out of it. Well, I think if we look at the scriptures, and if we look to Luke chapter 15, to the prodigal son, we will discover what we can do in these moments. See, the prodigal son, he took his inheritance from the father, and he went and wasted it on everything. And then he finds himself herding swine, which for a Jew was the worst thing that could possibly happen. And in this, he says he would gladly have fed on the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare? But I perish here with hunger. I will arise and go to my father." See, the prodigal son, he could have focused on all those pods that he wanted to eat, and he could have just sat there and just continued to starve. But instead of focusing on what he didn't have, he thought and he remembered, oh, my father, and in my father's house there are these servants who are fed and who are taken care of. I can go be like one of those servants. And in our lives, in a similar way, sometimes we have all these things that we can be focused on, whether it's money or whether it's friends or whatever it might be. But if we don't focus on that and we remember our Father, and if we remember that in our Father's house there are all these servants, the saints, who are well fed and taken care of and eternally rejoicing in the Lord, and that we can be just like them. So whenever we get to know saints, we end up discovering that they're actually just like us. They're these ordinary people who have done extraordinary things, but they're able to do these extraordinary things because they have fallen in love with Christ and because they've received the great mercy that he offers them. Not only do we learn from their example, but we are actually helped by their prayers. We're surrounded by this cloud of witnesses at every moment so that they help us with their prayers and they lead us through their holiness of life, always bringing us back to the Father. So I invite you to get to know the saints, to find the ones that you connect with. There's patron saints of just about everything. So if you just Google it, you can find who's the patron saint of whatever you like. And I invite you to get to know the saints and to enter into the communion that you're already a part of and to discover the Father's mercy in giving us all these friends that surround us. So let's leave all those pods behind and just follow the Lord and journey together to the Father's house.